Hello and welcome to this paper presentation on the Proto-Langspil, launching an Icelandic NIME research lab with the help of a marginalised instrument. Authored by myself, Jack Armitage, and my colleagues Thor Magnusson, Victor Shepardson, and Halda Ulfarsson at the Intelligent Instruments Lab in the Iceland University of the Arts. In this presentation, I will first introduce the Intelligent Instruments Lab along with the traditional Icelandic Langspil. I will provide context on feedback instruments and instrumental agency, as a preface to describing the Proto-Langspil's design. Then I will introduce our encounters-based methodology and describe Proto-Langspil encounters that have occurred thus far. Thereafter, I will discuss the outcomes and provide concluding remarks, including acknowledgements. The Intelligent Instruments Lab began activities in September 2021 as a small team focused on the function of musical instruments imbued with intelligence, and how these objects change the way we think about and perform music. Our community has since grown to include a number of artists and researchers, and we welcome anyone to contact us about working together. We began our research by designing an instrument as a probe for our research methodology to set in place the way we brainstorm, contextualize theory, streamline technical work processes, and engage with collaborators. Simultaneously, we designed our lab furniture as infrastructure that can also become a musical instrument, with strings and other technical elements attached. Like Pythagoras, we began our work with the vibrating string, a key sound source of musical instruments all over the world. Our intention was to continue this tradition with current technologies in artificial intelligence and dynamical systems. The Icelandic version of the monochord is called Langspil. It has up to 6 strings, where some are used as drone strings, and the fingerboard typically used a diatonic scale tuned in just intonation. The Langspil's history is somewhat muted and covert. It is centuries old and of unknown origin, but has seen a revival in recent years after being marginalised by the hegemony of Danish colonial rule. Feedback has been a technical means in luthiery since the advent of electric instruments. In the 1950s and 60s, cybernetics was picked up by artists like Bebe and Louis Barron, who composed a film soundtrack in 1956 by building and recording Norbert Wiener's circuits. A more recent feedback instrument is the haldoraphone, a cello-like instrument whose strings are amplified and returned into the body via transducers. The Proto-Langspil employs the same method to both play itself and respond to the player in nuanced ways. Our current approach to intelligent instruments is not confined to the latest developments in deep learning. Rather, we are interested in looking at intelligence from the perspective of the performer, asking under what conditions does a human performer attribute intelligence or agency in a technical object such as a musical instrument. From this perspective, many of our historical musical instruments are already intelligent. But when their internal states can be autonomously and dynamically transformed, we see a jump into a new world of possibilities that extend the instrument's current potential. The Proto-Langspil was designed with considerations of openness, potential for augmentation and customization, and ambiguity of function. More detailed information about the instrument design can be found in the full paper and open-source GitHub repository. Treating our lab as an experimental system, the Proto-Langspil became a method of formalizing our work around a boundary object, a grounded platform for collaboration across disciplines and social worlds. We frame interactions with the Proto-Langspil as encounters, described by Deleuze as something in the world that forces us to think, a phenomenon that is prior to cognition or recognition. Our encounters were designed to perform broad initial explorations of the major research questions and themes of our lab. We will now describe 4 encounters that are reported in our paper labelled as E0 to E3, along with additional encounters that have occurred since then. Encounter 0. Open labs and preliminary discussions. Our first meeting with the instrument was when Ulfarsson made a prototype in bookbinding board. Discussions involved size, shape, cultural connotations, modularity, and feel. In our weekly Open Lab event, we would present the instrument to our visitors, noting comments and learning from their insights. For us, this demonstrates how the emphasis on formal approaches can exclude valuable information. We also presented the work to Langspil experts and luthiers. Eyjólfur Eyjólfsson, also an anthropologist of music, was interested in cultural implications and how Proto-Langspils could be incorporated into the tradition. Folk musician Linus Orri also contributed valuable insights into tunings, scales, and historical developments of the instrument that informed subsequent design iterations. Encounter 1. Exploration of instrumental behavior. In this encounter, we were interested in exploring what the notions of agency and intelligence mean to people in the context of musical instruments. Musicians briefly explored a Proto-Langspil with 4 different software settings, labelled S1 to S4, representing different qualities of agency, each implemented as a super collider synth. 6 local musicians were filmed playing the Proto-Langspil and answered a survey. Each musician had 3 minutes per setting, and 3 encountered the settings in reverse order. They answered a Likert scale questionnaire, asking them about the felt sense of agency. Though not statistically significant, we made several qualitative observations consistent with the data, details of which can be found in the full paper. To summarize, this encounter validated our most basic assumption, that a passive instrument which reacts transparently to touch is perceived as less agential than one which reacts in a surprising and oppositional way. But between these extremes, the picture is more complicated. The methodology of this encounter, comparing between instrument behaviors with varying agential qualities, looks promising. However, improved survey instruments and experimental design will need to pull apart nebulous terms like intelligence and agency into the specific and culturally situated behaviors which constitute them. Encounter 2. Learning a short composition. Another theme of our research is the impact of agential instruments on embodied musical skill acquisition. To investigate this, a second pilot study was designed where musicians would explore the instrument for 10 minutes and subsequently learn and reproduce a short composition by David Brynjar Fransson for up to 20 minutes. The comments we received, which can be reviewed in the full paper, suggest that playing an agential instrument is about feeling patterns in complex behavior, distinct from traditional instruments with more fixed behaviors. The composition in this encounter represented the beginnings of a Proto-Langspil practice from which we deduced some skills. However, these were not explicit enough in the materials to make evaluation of learning possible. To improve this encounter design, we would make higher quality pedagogical resources for these skills so that detailed study of learning with agential instruments can take place. Encounter 3. Take home for artistic practice. Based on feedback from encounters 1 and 2, 3 more Proto-Langspils were built and loaned to 3 participants for them to explore musically. 1 participant was an author of this work. At the end of their take-home periods, each participant visited the lab to share improvisations and to discuss and reflect on their experiences. Video recordings of each participant's improvisations, accompanied by their comments and our observations, are embedded as YouTube videos in the PubPub page for this paper. Ongoing encounters. Since this paper was written in January 2022, encounters with the Proto-Langspil have continued to take place. Internally, our lab members continue to use them as a platform for experimentation with agential and intelligent instruments. Externally, they are being loaned out to local musicians and composers over the summer for original works to be developed and recorded. Using the available open source materials, the Proto-Langspil has already been reproduced outside of the lab by our collaborator David Brynjar Fransson, who has taken advantage of the Eurorack compatibility of the instrument's body. To our knowledge, the Proto-Langspil is the first feedback instrument to be published as open source and designed to be maker-friendly and modular from the start. We explored the Proto-Langspil as a boundary object, which allowed us to see promising connections between its affordances and their impact on skill learning and AI mind perception and expectation violation. However, we did so only in very short glimpses. Our own luthier, Halldor Ulfarsson, favours leaving his Halldorophone instruments with musicians for months and years, as this is where he has found the most meaningful insights to come from. We therefore see the need for longitudinal encounters in our work as our lab progresses. Since we are a new lab, we have been asking, how does one research intelligent instruments? Technological challenges aside, our experience so far indicates that the qualitative differences and divergent expectations that people have about intelligent instruments compared to others makes this research deeply complex. To face these new challenges, we encourage the NIME community to reflect on their research methodologies when it comes to agential and intelligent instruments. In this highly collaborative work, Thor Magnusson arranged and hosted the discussions with Langspil experts. Halldor Ulfarsson designed and built the Proto-Langspil, Victor Shepardson created the Proto-Langspil software, and Jack Armitage designed the encounters and edited the paper. Thanks for Proto-Langspil consultation and artistic evaluation to Hans Johansson, Linus Orri, Ylva Eilfsson, David Brynjar Fransson, and Eidis Kvaran.